Okay.
I hope that my cat is outside of the camera. Okay.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Georgi. This is, everyone, this is Georgi Mishev, and I'm sure I did not pronounce his name in the correct Bulgarian.
Actually, it's very, very correct. I think you know Bulgarian.
Thank you. And I am Calahn Luna, director of the Blackthorne School, and Georgi is a guest I have been wanting to talk with for so long. I am so excited and thrilled to be able to talk with you. So thank you for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
Yeah. Could you tell us just a little bit? Well, Georgi has a temple devoted to Hekate, and I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about this temple.
It's actually very interesting story, of course, because building a temple to ancient goddess nowadays in such a place as Bulgaria. Bulgaria is in southeast of Europe. In antiquity, it was known as Thrace. The neighbors of the ancient Greeks from the north, you know, a little bit barbaric, a little bit wild, but also known with the mysteries, with Orpheus, and with such interesting deities like Bendis, like Dionysus, like Hecate also. And it's my personal devotion to the goddess which brought me here to build this place of worship. I'm calling it in this way because the accent is, or the most important thing is the worship there.
Absolutely. I mean, you're really doing this phenomenal thing in the world, instating a real brick and mortar temple to Hekate.
It was my promise, actually, to the goddess when I was at the age of 14, very long time ago, actually more than 25 years already.
Well, that surprises me.
But it has happened. It has happened, and the place is very special. It is near to the second biggest town in Bulgaria, very near to Plovdiv, 50 kilometers from Plovdiv. It is in a very interesting region, which is very, very popular by the tourists, but not only, because there are find a lot of ancient temples and sacred buildings, and also rock sanctuaries. And I think it was maybe 10 years ago when I was there for first time. And then I have decided to buy a little bit land there and to build such a place, or to create such a place, because we build the building, but we do not create the place. The place is there. We can form it in a particular way, but the building, or the sacred buildings of the Thracians, are a little bit different from the sacred buildings of the ancient Greeks. What's the difference? Normally, the sacred buildings of the Thracians have much more in common to the Celtic sacred buildings. They fit into the nature. When you are far from them, you can almost not realize that there on this high peak, on this high mountain, there is a sanctuary. But when you approach it, then you can realize. The idea is that the mountain, the peak, the top of the mountain, it's very symbolical place, and it's connected with the idea of the mother goddess, or of the goddess, because she is not only a mother, she has a lot of functions. But we have preserved on inscriptions from Thrace this calling the Mountain Mother. The Mountain Mother is called also Hekate. She's called also Bendis. She's called with different namings. I prefer the word naming and not name, because these are not persons and they do not have personal names. They do not have passports, and because of that we cannot tell this deity or this goddess or this god is a Greek one, this is a Egyptian one, and so on and so on. We have started 7 years ago with the construction and with the creation of the whole place. It's on the edge of the village. It's a small village. It's on the edge of the village. It's not a very, very big piece of land, actually. It's maybe 1,000 square meters. But the temple alone is, I think, 30 square meters. It's a circular building.
Yes, I'm very intrigued by that design choice. I love it.
You know something? It's very interesting, because the Thracians they have left a lot of temples and sacred structures and buildings and so on and so on, but they do not have two temples which are the same. Every one of these buildings is unique.
Okay.
And when starting the construction of the temple, our intention is not to build a copy of an ancient temple, because we are not living 20 centuries ago, or we are not living 4,000 years ago. We are living now. Of course, there are some features which are to be preserved and which are very important for one sacred building. For example, we have used stones for the wall, and the circular form, the circle is connected with two ideas. At first, when you go into this building, you have the feeling that you are in a cave, because of the rocks, because of the small windows on the walls. And the cave, we have from the Thracians, we have a lot of womb caves. They are natural caves, but they are artificially formed like a female womb. And
a womb. Okay.
Yeah, and
very
you have
neat.
this aniconic image of the goddess.
Yes.
You do not have the face, you do not have the statue like the ancient Greeks, but still you have this representation symbolically of the goddess. And as we all know, the cave is our first home, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's this very primal connection to it.
Exactly. And the circular form is connected also with this idea of the never-ending life. You have this Ouroboros, you have this snake which is eating the tail of tail, and so on and so on. And something more, we have ancient sources mentioning a temple of the Thracians, or of Orpheus, an Orphic temple, which has an opening on the roof like the Pantheon in Rome, and it is connected with the sun. For a lot of modern day pagans or polytheistic people, this connection between the Hecate and the sun god is a little bit strange, because we have this a little bit mistaken image of Hecate as the dark one, the Gothic, this crown image created in the last century, actually. But Hecate and the sun god, they are connected in ancient times. They are invoked together with the spear of Apollo and Hecate Novia. Almost everyone knows this source and so on. But
Yeah.
also Medea. Medea is a granddaughter of the sun god, because her father, he is a son of the sun god. And this connection between the sun god and Hekate is very interesting and is preserved in the Thracian culture, because Hekate is actually this primordial source from which comes the first sparkle, the first light. You have the darkness, you have the darkness of the sacrificial pit inside the temple, and you have above on the roof, you have this opening through which are coming the rays of the sun god. And in the Thracian culture, we have this image of the god and the goddess. The goddess can be a triple goddess, not the maiden mother crown, but the triple, the three faces are the same. They are holding different symbols, but they are on the same age. And the god has a dual form, but not a dualistic one.
Okay.
The dual form is the sun during the day, you have the light from above. And you have the fire, the flame, the earthly image of the god during the night.
Oh, I love that.
We know about these ideas of the Thracians because of the ancient sources, but we find a lot of such relics in the folk culture still nowadays. And because I'm from such a kind of family, in my family, it's a family tradition, so the magical rituals, the healings, the incantations, and so on and so on. And we have still in this part of Europe, I'm joking that in Europe we do not have the wild west, but we have the wild east.
Okay. I like it. Yeah.
And the east of Europe, the Balkan Peninsula, so Romania, Bulgaria, Serbia, Greece also, the folk culture in these countries is very well preserved still nowadays. We have still nowadays this unbroken family tradition of magic, of healing, of rituals, knowledge about plants, about nature spirits like the Samudivi, we call them the nymphs, the ancient nymphs. We call them Samudivi. We have one image very similar to the dragon, is called Zmei. And we have a lot of preserved knowledge. And in our group, which we call Treskeia, we have a very interesting mixture from ancient knowledge transmitted to us through sources, through texts, through images, through information from excavations, and so on and so on. And we have this other part, the oral transmitted knowledge from the elders, from the old generations before us. And we have used this kind of these two kind of sources of information for creating this place of worship. For example, we have a lot of herbs and plants which we are using in a lot of rituals, which we know from our grandmothers and grandfathers.
Wow.
We have a lot of for example, rituals connected with the construction, with the building, which we know from our elders. For example, okay, it's a sacrificial ritual. I'm vegetarian, but it's a sacrificial ritual because in our folk tradition we have this idea that before you have the right to build something, you have to pay a price. And in old times, this price has to be a sacrificial animal, of course.
Okay.
the animal is shared. After that is cooked and is shared between in the community. Normally it's given away. You have to go on the other side of the street and to give the meat there. It was also forbidden to eat from this animal at home. It was shared with the community. It's a kind of community support. It's a kind of gesture that of attention to the others also. Nowadays we are a little bit afraid from all this. This is a sacrifice and so on and so on. But
a lot of people take issue to that idea.
Here the idea is paying the price. And for example, this kind of rituals, we do not know about them from sources, from texts. We know about them from our grandfathers and grandmothers and mothers also, and fathers.
I love that direct connection handed down through the family. That is really beautiful.
It's interesting. Normally the people are used to believe that it's much better to write something down, and so this thing, this belief or this ritual is better preserved. But if you think about, you have the censorship. You have it still nowadays, and in the old times, the church and this and this, it was much more common to something to be censored or something to be destroyed, the text, the recordings about these rituals. But in the family, if you know something, and if you give this kind of knowledge only to your grandchildren, nobody is able to hear about that and to tell you, oh, no, you have not the right to tell this. And normally it was the case in this part of Europe, and it has happened, and it happens still nowadays.
It's this protectiveness of the wisdom and the practices.
And I hope that the next generation will do the same. Will do the same, because everything we do in our generation has sense if we give it to the next generation, and if we enrich it a little bit. Because of that, sometimes I'm saying that when we speak about the temple of Artemis there, the temple of Demeter in Eleusis, we have remains of temples. We have remains of the work and of the deeds of people who have lived many, many years ago. They are not anymore temples. They are sacred places. They are places of memory. They are places with cultural and historical importance, but they do not work as temples anymore. But okay, our generation have to create our temples, because in 2 or 3 centuries, the next generation will ask, what have we done, our generations? And it is nice that we have these gatherings, we have these symposiums, we have all these festivals and so on and so on. But I think that it's very important to rebuild or to reopen this very, very sacred and important thing, the temple. You know something, we speak about the end of the polytheism with the closing of the temples. Why? Because when we are enough tired, we can sleep on the street directly. But still we create homes and we create bedroom, because there is much better to sleep and to take rest. For communicating with the divine, we need the temple, like the bedroom for our rest. And this is a place where we have the circumstances, we have all the conditions to communicate with the divine without to be exhausted to the end point. And the temple in this case is an instrument. Not the gods are needing the temples. We, the mortals, we do need the temples. We do need the sacred places, because we need to move to the gods, to the immortals. They are there. They was there and they will be there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's something so profound about lovingly, thoughtfully tending this special space devoted to this goddess.
Yeah.
So you started, you knew you were going to build a temple when you were 14, is that right? What spurred that knowledge? Is that something you're able to share?
I wrote actually an article about that many years ago. There is an anthology about the goddess Hekate, her sacred fires.
Oh, yes.
You know the book?
Compiled by Sarita D'Este,
yes.
right?
Yes, exactly. I was asked by Sarita to write about this personal experience. Normally, I'm not very this kind of person which is to telling a lot of stories about myself and so on and so on. My personal experience is actually, I was on the age of 7 years, and I was with my parents in Libya, in North Africa. And there we have visited an ancient city. Kyrene is the ancient name. Cyrene maybe is the correct pronunciation. I'm not sure. But after this visit, I came to Bulgaria, and for a month I have health issues. So fever and nightmares and so on, with a lot of terrible things. And in this time I saw on the window a very huge female figure, and she was telling me with this gesture, so stay calm. This whole condition stopped at once. So we do not know what was the reason. It was not the coronavirus then.
Yeah, not that long ago. Yeah.
But it stopped at once. And at the age of 13, I think, I have visited Libya again, because my mother was still working there as a physician. And I met a woman there. She has taught me how to read cards.
Okay.
And I became very interested in this kinds of things, about rituals, about healings, and so on and so on. And my grandmother told me, oh, you are like the aunt of your grandfather and like the grandmother of your grandfather. And I will bring you to one old lady. She will teach you something, and so on and so on. And in this time, I have found a very interesting booklet about Kyrene. And there I saw that I have visited a temple of one goddess, and this goddess has attached my attention during my time at school. We have learned mythology, ancient mythology, and when I came to this goddess for the first time, I was very attracted. Till this moment, I had a very close connection to the Christian female divine figure of the Mother of God, but not only, because in our folk culture we have a lot of female saints which are very high honored. We have the Saint Marina, we have the Saint Friday, the Saint Friday, the Saint Petka. And I have realized that there is something not very, very natural with these Christian images, but I'm much more attracted to something different, to something much older. And
even at a young age, you had this awareness that, oh, I'm drawn to the ones that are much older.
And at this time, it was not so much information. There was no internet, only books. We were used to read books. And nowadays, this is maybe something which I'm missing. Because reading books is important, is of course only one part of the thing. The personal experience is another part. The divine inspiration is the third part. Our attitude to the whole thing is another part, and so on and so on. But I can tell you that in this time, it was actually my start with this kind of faith or belief or worship. I do not call it my work, because I'm not working with her. I'm working for her.
Hey, there's a big, profound distinction.
Yes, it's maybe it's a linguistic thing, but I cannot imagine to work with her. I can worship her only. It's kind of, yeah. So and so this was the starting point, and from this point of my life, I have met a lot of interesting people, a lot of people with very profound knowledge, and I'm very, very thankful to the life and to the destiny and to the gods, because it was interesting to meet and to have this possibility to have this exchange of experience with the old people in these days. You know, they do not have, or they haven't the education about archaeology, history, and so on and so on, but they have lived a life full of such practical experience. These people in these days, they were a little bit different from us.
Absolutely.
I'm always mentioning my grandmother, because she was also an inspiration for me. She was a widow for 60 years. 60
oh wow
years. And she was such a funny person. Always smile and so on and so on. We have to be positive to the world with this special attitude to the nature, because we have in the folk culture also from our region this attention to the nature. We have the spirits of the nature. We have to be careful with the springs. We have to be careful with the rivers, with the old trees. And I think that we miss this wisdom nowadays. And in this time of this pandemic time, when we are only closed at home, we are missing this connection with the nature, with this primal energy around us.
I completely agree. It's so easy in this modern life to get lost and lose your connection with the rest of nature, right?
Yeah. A lot of people, they do know 50 model of cars, but they cannot tell you 10 names of plants.
Yeah.
And okay, it's of course it's connected with the way of life, but it's connected also with our way of thinking.
Absolutely. I love that thought. And I think a lot of us as practitioners feel drawn to having that deeper connection. And that's part of the most personally replenishing parts of some of this work, aside, in addition to our connection with the goddess.
Yeah.
So do you have a plan for regular rituals and or services at the temple?
Oh, we have that. We have that already.
Already?
Yeah, because the temple is almost finished.
Okay.
Actually, next Saturday is one of the last rituals. We will do the installation rites of the outside statue of the goddess, because the temple has this kind of organization, when I can call it in this way. When you start visiting the temple, you have a starting point from the west side. We are going counterclockwise because we are going to the east, meeting the sun and not following the sun.
Okay.
So we start from the west side, from the northwest side, where the statue of the goddess will be installed on Saturday. Is made from clay. This is the triple Hekateia, so the three faces.
You have some beautiful pictures of it on your Facebook page, and which we'll link to.
Yeah. And the earth is actually the first element from which we start, because we are all made and came from the earth. We go, and after that we have some prayers and so on and so on. And after that, at the entrance, there will be installed the temple fountain. The temple fountain is a very, very beautiful piece of art done by a friend of mine who is a sculptor, and he has done an image of Orpheus, because we have a lot of Orphic legacy in our tradition. We have this vegetarian offerings. We have this idea about immortality. We have this idea of this cycle of rebirths, and we have also this much more Orphic image of Hecate as the world soul, as the genetrix of all. Of course, we have the creatrix, the genetrix, the mother, the source, but she can be, or she has to be, also the destroyer, because for creating something new is normal that you have to destroy something old. And we have this function of Hecate, the changing goddess. She brings change. It was a very interesting moment. 1 or 2 years ago, a group of pagan people have visited the temple, and one of the girls there, she told me, "I'm not prepared to visit the temple." I was a little bit, so why? Because I know that it will be a life-changing event in my life, and I'm at this moment not prepared.
Oh, wow, very insightful.
And I have asked, who told you this? I'm told so. I was told now. I stopped asking, of course.
Oh, yeah.
And she has right. She has right, because every one of us who has this connection with Hekate, every one of us will agree with me that she is bringing change. You
Yeah,
cannot stay the same person, you cannot have the same life after having a connection with her.
absolutely.
Maybe this is a very, very I do not know, very important feature of her, but also very, very hard one. It's a very hard one because we are not always prepared for the change.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a lot of such events. We have visits. Of course, the temple is open to everyone.
That was another question. Anyone can
Yes.
come visit this temple.
Yes. The first outside visitor, to call it so, was a Buddhist, actually.
Interesting.
A lot of people have visited the temple, so Muslims and Christians and so on and so on. Normally, the visiting the temple is so that everyone is going one by one. It's not allowed to go in groups into the temple. It has, of course, its meaning. You have your personal time with the divine, with the gods. Of course, you are there with a priest or priestess, but they are sitting there and they're helping you if you have some questions. Also, in ancient times, the ancient people, they do not have this idea about orthodoxy, about this. This is only and the only right way of belief. They do, but have the orthopraxy, the right way of doing things. We have preserved this thing. For example, if you decide to visit the temple, of course you will become some instructions. You have to take your shoes off. You have not to wear some thing from leather or from something from that animal, and so on and so on. Here you can do this libation. Here you can put your offerings and so on. But this whole orthopraxy or this kind of rituals, they have also the a special meaning, because every tradition preserves a sparkle of wisdom. And when I decide to visit a Vedic temple, it's normal that I will follow the Vedic rituals, because the Vedic rituals are connected with the temple. The temple is connected with this kind of rituals. They are intermixed, and they will give me another experience. If I behave in the Vedic temple as in my home, I will not have this unique experience. And for all of us, I think that these sacred places, these temples, these places of worship, they are opportunity to have such an experience, if we are enough open-minded and open to experience it. It's the most important things at all, actually. I was asked once, which is, according for me, the perfect temple. The perfect temple is this temple which is visited by the perfect worshipper.
Yeah, that's
it means it depends mostly of you.
Yes.
The worshipper has to be open, has to be prepared, has to have the necessary attitude to this place and to this tradition to become the experience which this person is seeking for. Because we all are seekers. We all are seekers.
We are. Absolutely. We never stop being a seeker, no matter how much we learn or study or practice.
hopefully.
Mm-hmm. What do you consider your role to be as a steward of this temple and in your practice with Hekate?
It's a huge obligation and brings me a lot of happiness and joy.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say it. It means also a lot of work. It means
Yes.
also a lot of work. We have this I have mentioned these ancient temples like the Delphi, like Lagina, and so on and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But when we look at them, we see the beautiful remains, we see the beautiful things, the statues, and so on and so on. But often we forget about the whole work which is behind this whole thing.
Yes.
We have to work hard to bring ourselves a little bit closer to the divine and to the gods. Mm-hmm. Only sitting and meditating is one part of the thing and one part of the life, but we have a focus, very, very common expression that the vineyards do not need a prayer, but it needs a very hard work. And so for me, the temple is a huge obligation. It's a very, very responsible thing. And I hope that I'm realizing the responsibility with creating such a place, because it is life-changing for a lot of people, It's of course my part of my service to the goddess, of course, but I hope that there will be people in the future who will be able to take it over, and I hope to be able to prepare such people. Because if such a thing finds its end with the end of my life, because all of us will meet the end of the life at some point.
It's inevitable.
At some point.
Yeah.
Hopefully not very soon, because we have a lot of work to do. I hope that it will be the starting point of something. It's my dream to be the starting point. It's not to build the temple, to create the temple, and it's only the start.
Yeah, to just be the beginning and see it live on in the lives of many others, right? So beautiful. Can you tell us a little bit more about your own connection and practice with Hekate? What does it entail, if you're, to the point you're able to share?
My personal devotion is connected with exactly the word devotion. Because I think that if we are enough devoted, and if we bring ourselves closer to the gods, we will reach these good and beautiful things. They are called in this way from ancient times, which are the best for us. And the closeness of the divine is actually the blessing which we are seeking. This feeling that you are part of something divine, when you feel the divine, this is actually the mystery. This is actually the mystery, and we cannot describe it with words. If I describe a dream to you, my dream to you, then you will have the knowledge, but you will not gain the feelings, the experience, and so on and so on. Because of that, we have this the unspoken things, the mystery. the mystery is this: every one of us has its his or her own mystery from this meeting the divine. But to meet the divine, I think, in different ways, of course. I think that this is actually the center of my seeking of Hekate.
Yes, to have that direct connection with the divine, which is what a mystical experience is.
Yes.
I share that with you. Oops, I'm sorry. Yeah, do you have any unusual or exciting experiences that you've had in your work with Hekate that you can share?
A lot.
A lot.
I
suspected as much.
A lot, I think. A lot, I think. Maybe one of the experiences was during the construction works of the temple. In a dream, I was told to collect 10 stones from a river which is nearby, and to use these stones for one part of the construction. So it was very interesting because it was for the creation of a sacrificial pit. It's a pit in 3 steps, the 3 steps pit. It's used for libations and so on. I have collected the stones, and according to the size of the stones was measured the deep of the pit. So after start digging the pit exactly for the stones, beneath this point, it was a rock. It was a rock, and it was not possible to dig more. It was exactly on this deep that you can put the stones. It was very, very strange because if you do the calculations and so on, it will not fit. It will not fit. But it was on. Such things are very, very strange. Another very strange story is that in November, we usually visit for a ritual, our group, we visit one cave, 100 kilometers from my hometown. And one year we have done something, and we reached this cave a little bit later. And there was a woman standing by a well, a local woman, but we do not know her. And she was so standing there, and she said to us, "This year you are a little bit late." And she has gone directly to her house. And we have no words. You cannot say nothing. Maybe it sounds crazy, but I think that sometimes the gods are speaking through the mouths of the mortal people, of us, of people. They are using some people to tell us something.
Absolutely.
And such moments, you cannot forget such moments.
No.
We were maybe 6 or 7 persons there, and we looked a little bit shocked. This year you are a little bit late.
Yeah. Oh man. Called out. I like that.
She's teaching us. She's teaching us in different ways, with different advices. We are not hearing her very well, but sometimes it happens, so we can hear.
Yeah, yes. I think that is one of the hugest parts of the struggle is just listening, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's
Ah,
also not very, very easy to make the distinction. It's my fantasy or actually something real is happening.
yes.
Is this my conscience and subconscious, or is this something which I'm telling to me, or this is something from the divine or from the gods or from the goddess? It's also not very, very easy to make this distinction.
Mm-hmm. How do you make that distinction?
Oh, it's not very easy. It's
Mm-hmm.
not very easy.
Yeah, I think it's really normal for all of us to have that question from time to time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I
Because
know me,
fantasy and divine inspiration, they are two different things.
absolutely.
And, a lot of people, they are not making this distinguishing this, and
Mm-hmm.
we all are making mistakes. Of course, we do not have right always, but at least we have to try. We have to try to do our best and to find out, is this me or is this something more?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. What words of wisdom or advice would you give to practitioners learning to work with Hekate?
It's a very nice question, actually, but a hard one. It's a hard
Mm-hmm.
one. I'm not in the position giving advices, actually.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm not in this position because everyone of us has a personal relation with the divine. It is between the person and the divine, which I can give like an advice. It's much more from this point of view that a lot of things are important. Important is to read. Important is to learn. Important is to have this to preserve this old knowledge, to gain your own knowledge also.
Yes. They go hand in hand.
Exactly, but we have to be very, very careful with our own personal experience and with the wisdom of the culture, because culture is much more than only a personal experience. What I mean, what I have in mind, we have these symbols. We have a symbol of the goddess, the torches. We have the snake. We have the key. We have this triple form. We have her three faces. She is much more virgin, or in this age. Everything of this has much more deeper meaning than we realize. And instead of changing things, is better, my personal opinion, to learn from these cultural symbols. They have a lot of meaning. They have a lot of inspiration. The myths, the mythology, it has a creative potential. It has inspired so much people to create a piece of works, music, art, and this and that, and so on and so on, because it has this primal potential, this primal potence. And because of that, I'm not using very often this word energy, because energy is something which is brought into movement, but the potency, the potential is to have the power, to be able to, and you decide to bring it into action or not. And so it's important to learn. It's important to experience, and it's very important to work.
So the importance of having a well-rounded practice that involves the actual hands-on devotions, the connection, the personal relationship with Hekate, and then the reading and learning and community, right? That's 5 different things.
Yes. And the symbolical way of doing things is one part. I was asked once, it's not possible to do with pebbles the crossroad in my room instead of going out to give these offerings. Yeah, you can do it, of course, but it's not a crossroad. It's not a crossroad. You will not have the experience like going outside during the night, feeling the wind, hearing the hounds in maybe barking. The experience is different. Of course, the reality has a lot of layers. The empirical experience is only one of the layers. The emotional experience is another layer of the reality. But if we combine these different aspects of reality, then we will have much more consistent kind of knowledge. And I think this is not so bad to have this thing.
Is there anything else that feels important to share about the temple or your work that we haven't touched on?
It is not my temple. It's our temple of all people who are worshiping, are devoted, or are honoring the goddess Hekate and Dionysus, Sabazios. I have the obligation about the maintenance of the temple, but it's not my temple. It belongs to the community, to everyone who is connected in some way with this goddess and who is attracted to her. Because I think, or I have realized in these 3 years, because since 3 years the temple is functioning, and it was visited by a lot of people. And I have realized that the people have this need to have such a place, to have a place where they are alone with the divine, with the goddess. They do not have the group. It's not a place for social meeting. It's not a ritual place in this kind of understanding which we are used to have. It's separated place from this world, and I hope that such places will emerge in different regions, and I know that a lot of people are working on that, and I wish them luck, of course. I wish them inspiration, because the inspiration is very, very important. And I hope that we will build a community, because it's very, very important to have a community. We have to support each other. We have to know that only as a community we have a chance to preserve the world in us and the world around us.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I know that a lot of people will be watching this video and might be very interested in supporting some of the work you're doing here. is there maybe a link you could provide with me to post in the comment, in the description,
of course,
where
yeah.
people could donate if they wanted to support the temple?
At the moment, we do not have these donations, but always you can do something different. I have an Etsy. I have an Etsy store with images and drawings.
Oh,
When you buy a drawing, normally the money from it goes for the temple. It's almost the same,
okay.
and
That's fantastic.
you are having something like a little bit a piece from it.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I will definitely include the Etsy link in the description here and the information for your Facebook group. And I also wanted to show people your book in case anybody is wanting to go a little deeper and is fascinated by what you're saying. Your book is called Threshing Magic, Past and Present. And it is a lovely and highly recommended book. So
Thank you. I hope you have enjoyed it.
oh, I have. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you sharing so much.
Thank you also.